Hello everybody and welcome to a very exciting video here on my channel. Today, of course, since you clicked on this video, you already know I want to go over my 25 books that I want to read in 2025. Kind of in a way for Bookmas. I'm not necessarily doing Bookmas, but if I can, since I just started working again, if I can upload enough videos, I might label it as Bookmas. In this video, I also kind of want to go over last year's 24 books, or I guess this year's 24 books in 2024. I did not complete it. I also only got about halfway, and I did something really stupid where I didn't put like the first book in a series. I put the entire series down. It was my first year doing this and I thought I had it exactly how I wanted it, but as the year went on and we moved and I stopped reading as much, I realized I was kind of stupid. So I kind of want to go over that, let you guys see this one from last year or this current year, since we only have a couple weeks left in December. And then of course I want to get into my 25 books that I want to read in 2025. Before we get into the video, I just want to preference by saying, if you hear our son, just know he's playing, and potentially my husband could be coming home soon for duck hunting. He got a couple ducks this morning, but we have a love seat right here. He's playing behind that. That way he's not on camera and he's playing with cars. So if you've ever been around a kid that has an imagination and is driving with cars, you might hear him off and on, and I'm so sorry if he gets a little bit loud, or if you can hear him in some spots more than in other spots. So I just wanted to put that out there just in case. As always, he's always in my videos. I feel like just not physically in them, just more on the sidelines. So now without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into my 25 books for 2025. Like I said, I wanted to show you last year's 24 books in 2024. So we are going to kind of look at this together. I do, instead of a reading journal, I do a reading binder, and I print out all my stuff for like a year in preference. I'm also getting ready to do that video, so stay tuned for that one if you're curious. Like I said, there is a few things that on this list I messed up with. First in order, we have Thrones of Wings and Ash. This technically is the second book in the Throne of Betrayal. This was my favorite book in 2023. If you've already been to my channel, you already know, so I'm not going to talk about it. But she actually is just getting ready to do the ARC readers. It was supposed to come out in the summer 2024 and it got pushed back, which is okay. So I get a freebie on not finishing one of the 24 books on this list, which is very exciting. Then we have Archer's Voice. Yeah, I didn't get to that. We had The Invisible Life of Addie the Roo, which I did actually get to. All the Light That We Cannot See, I did get to as well. The Chronicles of Narnia. That was a big, thick book. It was all the stories in one, is the copy that I had. And technically, I could have just did one story in particular, but I did the entire series. I did happen to finish that one, which was great. I think I only had like 3 or 4 stories left of the Chronicles of Narnia when I made this list, because I think I started them in December. Then we have the Shadow Hunters universe. I'm pretty sure there's 20-something books in that universe. Why did I put that down? I don't know. Was I just trying to talk about the 3 books that I had from the Infernal Device series? Maybe. I did not read that whole thing, let alone one of those. Then we have Airborne, Skybreaker, and Star Climber. This is actually a full series. I'm okay with how I did it like this, where each book was separate. This was a trilogy. I did finish Airborne. I'm halfway through Skybreaker, and I will be trying to finish Skybreaker and also Star Climber before December ends and before the new year. As long as I start Star Climber, I am 100% okay with that. Then we have the Ravenhood trilogy. Again, I listed a whole trilogy. I do have the first book, but I don't own the second one. Why did I do that? I don't know. The Girl in Pieces, I did read that. The Lunar Chronicles. Do I have to even say anything about that? Hunger Games. I really thought I was going to get to that one this year. Same with Catching Fire and Mockingjay. And the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I technically have Hunger Games, like the trilogy. I don't have the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I have not found that book just yet. But don't worry, I did list as well the Paraval trilogy, and I did complete it. So that one was really great. And then we have the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series. This entire series is like 8 books long or so, and each book is 500 or so pages. What was I thinking? But then the last 4 was again part of a series. Beautiful Creatures, Beautiful Darkness, Beautiful Chaos, and Beautiful Redemption, and I did actually read those. So as we're sitting here in the beginning of December, or the second week of December, I have about 10 books that I did accomplish on my 24 books of 2024. 1 I get a freebie on, and 2 technically, at least 1 I'm halfway through, and I should be starting Star Climber at the end of this month. So that gives us about like 14 of the 24 books. So it's not bad, but it's also not good. Now for the really exciting bit, I'm going to actually go over the 25 books. This is not in particular order. The only thing I for the most part did was we're going to start with series, then maybe move to like romance, sad books, I guess you could say, standalones, kind of memoirs, autobiographies, and then older style books. The first book that I have on this list is House of Salt and Sorrows. I picked this up not too long ago. I think I found the second one for my birthday, and I picked this up about a month before. I have been so intrigued to actually hop into this and read it, and I thought it was supposed to be a duology. I thought also it then was going to be like a trilogy or something, but I only see 2 books out, or at least listed under this series, so maybe it is a duology and I can read it and finish it now. But I am so excited to start this. I've heard hardly nothing about it, and I want to keep it that way because I don't like going into books with a lot of information. I love going going into them blind. For me, it makes a more fun experience when reading. Then I have Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief. I have the entire series, books 1 through 5, and this year I'm gonna do something smart and different. I'm just gonna list the first book if I haven't read that whole series. I think my husband's home because it sounds like a truck is coming down and we're the only ones back here. I wanna get to this book and I've been eyeing it. I know it's a little bit more YA, but I'm honestly so curious to see what everybody else seen when we were in like middle school, high school, and even now some people reread as an adult and they still love the series. I also have Ender's Game. I did read this many years ago. I forgot totally about it, to be honest, and also I didn't know at the time that it was a part of a series. So I'm gonna eventually tackle it, reread it, and I wanna potentially grab the rest of the series if I do like it and wanna continue it. Then I have Red Queen, and I do have the second book to this, but not anymore the series. I wanna try really hard in 2025 to not necessarily buy a complete series, but more so read the first book or read the books that I have, and if I like them, continue the series. I feel like that's a good idea. Let's try and stick to it this year. But yes, I have Red Queen, and I've been also eyeing this one, even though I do believe it's YA as well. Then one that I've been so excited about is the Cruel Prince trilogy. I just picked these up for my birthday, and I have been dying, absolutely dying to get to the series. I wanna know what everybody thinks about these. And I love the covers. I like also the spines and how they look on my bookshelves. My husband did come home. Him and our son are in the kitchen preparing the duck because it's gonna be mounted, but I did have to show you guys. Anyways, moving along, we then also do have Red Rising. I've been thinking about, of course, getting the rest of the series, but I think I'm gonna try and read the first trilogy section of it before it was added on. See if I really enjoy it, more so the first book because it's the only book of the trilogy or of the series in total that I have. And I've just had it on my shelf for far too long. I wanna get into it, especially because I love sci-fi and I love fantasy. So 2025 hopefully is going to be the year that I do actually read it and hopefully love it. Then the same as my 2024, we do have The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Also, like I said, it is 500 and so pages. This one's actually right before 600 pages. So it's not a really thick book, but at the same time, the page count is a lot because the font isn't necessarily the biggest. It's one of those series that I collected, at least this one and the first couple, so many years ago. They've sat on my shelf. I collected pretty much the rest of the entire series, and the series keeps growing, but for now I have all but one of the books. So I do want to get around to it and read it, and also I have TBR prompts for this book and series in particular so that I would be forced to read it if I didn't pick it up. And I'm also adding it to this list so that I can be encouraged to read it. Then I have Tidewater Inn by Colleen Cobble. I read a book from her back in 2020 or 2021 called Lone Star Sanctuary. I absolutely loved it. It was like a Western romance and a little bit of like a subplot of mystery, I guess you could say. And then I found this book, and it was a completed trilogy, and then another book of hers at St. Vincent for $1 each. So I picked this up. These are a new cover, but I absolutely love these covers. I think they're so pretty, and I'm so excited to tackle another one of her books and see if I still love her writing as I did all those years ago. Next I have The Giver, and I've read The Giver technically many years ago, but just the same as Ender's Game, I never knew it was a part of a series. So I found this. It's an actual quartet. I was looking to get the full series, and I stumbled across for my birthday all the books in one. It's a pretty chunky one, but I just have The Giver as my first book that I want to tackle. And then of course, since I already know how it is, I will go into the rest of the series, but I put this one back on my list because I do want to tackle it and I want to reread and finish the series. Do I need any more introduction to this book? I bought this, I think, a couple months after it went very viral all over the internet, and I never read it, and also I was worried about picking up Iron Flame because I wanted the US version, not the overseas version, or at least the one that was printed in the US, and I have still to this day yet to read this because I'm afraid if I don't like it, and I think this year I just need to tackle it. And I do believe she's getting ready to release the next one within like at least a year, hopefully, so maybe it would be a completed series. If not, I have another book to read if I really enjoy them. The next category I have is for the most part romance. For my birthday, I also picked up Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is the only book besides Funny Story I have yet to read from her, at least on the romance side, but this is the only one that I currently own that I have not read. So I do want to read this. I just want to space it out because I just recently read Book Lovers and did not really enjoy that book. I want to space it out just a little bit more and then use this maybe as like a palette cleanser in a few months, especially since it's more summery feeling, so maybe around May or June. Again, for my birthday, I just picked up Forever Never by Lucy Score. I do have the Knock 'em Out trilogy, but instead I wanted a standalone instead of doing so many series on my 25 books. So I picked this one, and I've been really excited to try and tackle it, especially because right now it's cold, it's December, it's supposed to snow eventually. This just gives me the winter vibes. And then just like 2024, I'm adding Archer's Voice again to my list. I'm kind of sad that I did not get around to it, but since we had such a busy year with us moving 2,000 miles, having our whole life turn upside down, things like that, I just didn't read that much. I had a lot of months that were just 2 books, 0 books, or maybe even 1 book. So next year, I definitely want to make this more of a priority. I also want to see what everybody raves about this book. And then I also have Nicholas Sparks' The Last Song. I have about 5 books I own from him left to read. I think I own like 21 or 22, and I just picked this one up. This is my newest one I just picked up, but at the same time, it's the one that's most intriguing me of his that I still have yet to read. Next, we have my 2 sad, more so emotional books. Both of these I picked up for my birthday. The first one is If He Had Been With Me. I'm very excited to tackle this book and see what everybody talks about, and also if I will like it or not as much as other people. I hear it's very sad and very emotional, but at the same time, I don't have much emotion towards books besides maybe happiness, so I really want a book that might tear at my heart a little bit, so to say. Same with A Little Life. This also was because nobody would actually talk about what's in this book. They would just kind of hint around, try not to say anything or spoil anything, and so I really want to know. I'm very curious what's in this book, what is like the bad thing that happens, how much it could affect me in either a negative or a positive way, and also if it's a book that will stick with me for a lot of years to come. My next category is, for the most part, standalones in one way or another. This book I have put on TBRs so many months and I've never got around to it, but I have been dying to read it and to also read the rest of Tolkien's series, which is of course The Lord of the Rings, what I'm talking about. But this in particular is a standalone. This is The Hobbit. Like I said, I've had this on so many TBRs. I just never got around to it, but I'm very curious about how the book is since I've seen the movies. Then I also have The Midnight Library, and this concept just seems so intriguing, and I've heard such great things about this book. And also, since it's not a very long book, it's one of those that might be more of a palate cleanser that I absolutely love. Then we have a thriller called These Silent Woods. I recently just picked this up. I've heard really great things about it, and I can't wait to see if I love it just as much as everybody else. For 2024's books, I had All the Light We Cannot See, and I did actually read that, and it was a 5-star read. And because of that, there was a preview in the back for Cloud Cuckoo Land, and I want to know if this book is going to be just as good as that book. So I did see this book when I was out shopping for my birthday. Then we have The Host by Stephanie Meyer, and I've had this book on my shelf for a few years. I just haven't gotten around to it because I read Twilight, I think in 2022 or 2023. It's more of a thicker book, but after reading Twilight, I kind of want to know if this book is pretty decent or if it's also kind of awkward like Twilight is. Next, I have 2 memoirs or autobiography biographies, and the first is Richard Hammond. If you know anything about him, obviously you probably know about the crash that should have probably taken his life, and this book is more portrayed about his life around and after that crash. This is just one of the last couple memoirs that I have left on my shelf. Then in 2019, I got this book for my husband. It's Dale Jr.'s autobiography. It's his story. I was really curious because it's not very long, and since I technically bought it for my husband and he just never read it because he's not much of a reader, I wanted myself to see what it was about. The last 2 books on this list are much older books. They're books that are not necessarily common, but they will be staying on my shelf and I will never get rid of them. The first one we have is actually a book from the 1950s. It is called The White Witch Doctor. I was given this book many years ago from a neighbor. Actually, I was given a lot of books from her, and I have a few books after she passed away that are about 100 or so years old. This was one of those that was a little bit more newer, and I just never got around to reading it, but I have slowly tackled a few of those books that I was given. And then the last one is The Black Stallion and Flame. Again, this is probably one of those that isn't really necessary to read. It's more of like a kid's storybook, but it's only 206 pages for the most part. It would be a quick read, and of course, like I said, it will be staying on my shelf. So I rather have books that I read on my shelf than books that I haven't read. And that is all the 25 books I want to read in 2025. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. If you're curious, be sure to click back on any book related video here on my channel. I also have a whole playlist specifically for books. And as always, I hope to see you in another video, and God bless.